Madhya 12, 101.
Thank you.
Kainama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paskacha Devatarne Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhunichananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita is the book that Srila Prabhupada read when he was actually crossing the Atlantic, coming to America. And he said it was the only thing that gave him solace. It was his only comfort on that difficult trip. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita is very sweet. And of course, Lord Chaitanya, being the Yuga avatar, he is more important than any other incarnation of God because he is the one that has taught us the process of devotional service. And having so much information about his life in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is so, helps us so much to understand how to practice devotional service, how to know what the goal is, and how to achieve the goal of loving Krishna and, being inspired, because Lord Chaitanya, he only wrote 8 verses, we know, Shikshastakam. So he entrusted so much to his followers like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Prabhupada. He has tried to present Lord Chaitanya's message in a way that we can understand. And he went through so much labor to write all the purports. For instance, in the Adi Lila, some of the purports of 4 or 5 pages, are very deep, very technical philosophy about Sankarshan and the Chatuvyuha. So, there's a lot of work writing all that. So Srila Prabhupada, he did all that to educate us so that we got the foundation of our spiritual life properly. And of course, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said that if there are if all the books in the world were destroyed, 3 books are the most important books. So Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he said that if there was only 2 books, it would be the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he said if there was only 1 book, most important book, was Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he read the Chaitanya Charitamrita 100 times, even though he had a perfect memory. So he used to like reading about Lord Chaitanya. They asked me to give an introduction already. So now we'll start reading. We start with text 101.
One minute. He has a question.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
There are 2 books, Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavata. Which of those 2 books do you consider the more important?
Well, they're totally different books. I mean, the Chaitanya Bhagavat is written by Vrindavan Das Thakur, who's actually an incarnation of Vyasadeva. But Vrindavan Das Thakur, he was one of the 12 Gopalas, one of the cowherd boyfriends of Krishna. And Krishnadas Kaviraj, he was a Manjari in his Siddha Sarup, Manjari. So that is the difference, that the Chaitanya Charitamrita is more intimate, talks more about the relationship between Radha and Krishna. The Chaitanya Bhagavat, I've read, there's 3 different versions that I know of. There's the one by Sarvabhauma Prabhu, very flowery. There's the one translated or with the purports by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And there's the one shorter version by Puri Maharaj, the godbrother of Srila Prabhupada. So, obviously it's an important book. Bhakti Siddhanta wrote the purports. It's, 7 or 8 volumes. But, for us, we consider Chaitanya Charitamrita more important because Prabhupada wrote the purports, and also it gives more of the understanding of what Lord Chaitanya was teaching as far as, his relationship with Krishna, Radharani. It's more intimate, that's all.
Isn't it more philosophical, the Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Maybe. Okay. Okay, so should I let my wife read for a bit?
How do you do? How many
She'll
texts
Sorry.
do you?
We try to do like 3 or 4 texts each person, maybe around 3 minutes each person.
And you do the purport if there is one?
Yes.
Okay,
Translation.
okay. Translation. Do you do the Bengali as well?
No, that is up to you. We don't need to do Bengali.
Okay. Translation. Someone brought water to pour into the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and someone poured water on his lotus feet. Text 102. The water that fell from the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was drunk by someone who hid himself. Someone else begged for that water, and another person was giving that water in charity. Text 103. After the room was washed, the water was let out through an outlet, and it then flowed and filled the yard outside. 104. The Lord mopped the rooms with his own clothes, and he polished the throne with them also.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
In this way, all the rooms were cleansed with 100 water pots. After the rooms had been cleansed, the minds of the devotees were as clean as the rooms. Text 106. When the temple was cleansed, it was purified, cooling, and pleasing, just as if the Lord's own pure mind had appeared.
Okay. Ekadashi, you want to go next? Or Adhikata Prabhu, I'm sorry, because you're right there. You can.
Okay. I already did my speaking.
Okay. Ekadashi can go then.
That's all right.
Should I read or?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Since hundreds of men were engaged in bringing water from the lake, there was no place to stand on the banks. Consequently, someone began to draw water from a well. Hundreds of devotees brought water in pots, and hundreds took the empty pots away to fill them up again. With the exception of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaitacharya, Swarup Damodar, Brahmananda, Bharati, and Paramananda Puri, everyone was engaged in filling the water pots and bringing them there. Many of the water pots were broken when people collided with one another, and hundreds of men had to bring new water pots to fill. Some people were filling the pots and others were washing the rooms, but everyone was engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and Hari. One person begged for a water pot by chanting the holy names, Krishna, Krishna, and another delivered a water pot while chanting, Krishna, Krishna. Whenever anyone had to speak, he did so by uttering the holy name of Krishna. Consequently, the holy name of Krishna became an indication for everyone who wanted something. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was vibrating the holy name of Krishna in ecstatic love, he himself was performing the work of hundreds of men.
Sankalpa, I'm sorry, Ekadashi, because we need to give turns to others also. Sankalpa, would you like to go next?
Okay. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was vibrating the holy name of Krishna in ecstatic love, he himself was performing the work of hundreds of men. We read that already. Hari Bol. It appeared as though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was cleansing and washing with 100 hands. He approached every devotee just to teach him how to work. When he saw someone doing nicely, the Lord praised him. But if he saw that someone was not working to his satisfaction, he immediately chastised that person, not bearing him any grudge. The Lord would say, "You have done well. Please teach this to others so that they may act in the same way. As soon as they heard Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say this, everyone became ashamed. Thus the devotees began to work with great attention.
Radha Priya, Lileshwari or Jai Govind, whoever is ready, go next.
I can read,
Yeah,
Mataji.
go. Yes, go.
Okay. They washed the Yamohanara area and then the place where the food was kept. All the other places were also washed. In this way, the meeting place was washed, the entire yard, the raised sitting places, the kitchen, and every other room. Thus, all places around the temple were thoroughly washed within and without. After everything was thoroughly washed, a Vaishnava from Bengal, who was very intelligent and simple, came and poured water on the lotus feet of the Lord. The Gaudiya Vaishnava then took the water and drank it himself. Seeing that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt a little unhappy and was also outwardly angry. Although the Lord was certainly satisfied with him, he became angry externally in order to establish the etiquette of religious principles. The Lord then called from Swarupa Damodar and told him, "Just see the behavior of your Bengali Vaishnava." This person from Bengal was washed my feet within the temple of the personality of Godhead. Not only that, but he has drawn the water himself.
Lileshwari or Jai Govinda Prabhu, do you want to go next?
I can read, Mataji.
Yes, go. Yeah.
I now do not know what my destination is because of this offense. Indeed, your Bengali Vaishnava has greatly implicated me. Purport. It is significant that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Swarup Damodar Goswami that the Bengali Vaishnava was your Gaudiya Vaishnava. This means that all Gaudiya Vaishnavas who are followers of the Chaitanya cult are subordinate to Swarup Damodar Goswami. The Parampara system is very strictly observed by Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal secretary was Swarup Damodar Goswami. The next group of devotees was the 6 Goswamis, then Kaviraj Goswami. It is necessary to observe the Parampara system of the Chaitanya cult. There are many offenses one can commit while serving the Lord, and these are described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Hari Bhakti Vilas, and other books. According to the rules and regulations, no one should accept obeisances in the temple of the Lord before the deity, nor is it proper for a devotee to offer obeisances and touch the feet of the spiritual master before the deity. This is considered an offense. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was personally the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, it was not actually offensive to wash his lotus feet in the temple. However, because he was playing the part of an Acharya, the Lord considered himself an ordinary human being. He also wanted to give instructions to ordinary human beings. The point is that even though one plays the part of a spiritual master, he should not accept obeisances or permit a disciple to wash his feet before the deity. This is a matter of etiquette.
Ruchira Mataji and Adhikata Prabhu, do you have anything to say here? Any comments on this purport?
Well, the Bengali Vaishnav was a devotee called Kalidas. And Kalidas, he was a special devotee. He used to play with dice. And Prabhupada said we can't imitate him. But he was very pleasing to Lord Chaitanya because he would go around and get the remnants of all the devotees. He would offer them food. And when they threw the remnants out, he would come and eat the remnants, unbeknownst to them. And one time he went to a devotee, and his name was, can't remember his name. Anyway, Mamu Thakur, and he offered him some mangoes. And this devotee, he refused them because he said that, you know, you're a Brahmin, Kalidas, you're a Brahmin. I cannot take anything from you. And if I give you my remnants, that will be a great offense. So, you know, then Kalidas, he glorified Mamu Thakur, and he quoted a famous verse about somebody who chants the holy name. It's a famous verse about one who chants the holy name being glorious. And so they had this kind of competition about, you know, who is a real Vaishnava, and that anybody who chants is a special person. Anyway, he eventually took the mangoes, Mamu Thakur, from Kalidas, and then Kalidas hid in the bushes. And then Mamu Thakur, he threw the remnants out after he'd offered the mangoes, and Kalidas, he came and ate the mangoes. He came and ate the peel and the big stone in the middle. And then he got Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And that's why he was able to drink the water from the feet, because he was such a humble devotee.
But also Prabhupada talks about how important the offenses, not to commit the offenses in front of the deity. And there's so many in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, you can see so many that you don't talk angrily, you don't talk before the deities, you don't put your feet out, you know, there's so many. And those are important to follow so that we get the proper understanding of worshiping the deity and serving him like the supreme, not turning our backs to the deities. So many different things, but they make a difference even to our consciousness of worshiping the deity and seeing him as the supreme person, not as just a statue of stone or something. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even though he is the Lord himself, he's still, yes.
I've seen in many temples, that sometimes we see devotees sitting with their legs stretched out in front of the deities. Like you said, that is not proper, right?
Yeah, it's not.
It's one of the offenses. It's also an offense to sit in the temple room without sitting on a cushion.
Oh, really? Oh, no, wow.
Yeah.
What
I
if
don't
you
know, I
have-
can't see why, but Krishna wants you to be comfortable when you worship him.
Wow, that's news to me.
Yeah, I didn't know it was an
I've
offense. I
taken
mean,
my cushion and given to other people who didn't have a cushion.
That's what it says.
Yeah. And holding your knees while you're sitting in front of the deities, that's also, there's so many different offenses, but it's really good to go over them just to refresh our minds about what offering a useless flower that has no scent and no, you know, which are most of the flowers that we get, but not the ones that we grow.
You know, when
Yeah.
you say, holding the knees, like when you're sitting in a Padmasana pose and holding the knees, that's what you're referring to?
Yeah, I guess. It just says you shouldn't sit before the deities holding your knees. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, you know that the japa tape, the Prabhupada chants japa, and then he stops chanting, he said, sit properly. He was very stern when he said that. He wasn't joking, you know. So sitting properly is very important. Even standing properly. One time, one devotee was lounging, leaning against a pillar somewhere, and Prabhupada didn't like him leaning against the pillar. He said, why are you leaning like that against the pillar? Because it's kind of slack in front of the spiritual master. It should be at your service, you know, ready to run and do whatever. But when you're too lazy, you know, lounging around, it's not good.
So how do you tell devotees without offending them?
Well,
That's a very awkward situation, isn't it?
See, if I told everybody the things Prabhupada said were wrong, I'd be really popular. I would win the most popular man of the year award. Really. I see so much stuff and it's so frustrating, but you can't say a word. You can't say anything.
But that's why it's important to read, because you don't have to say anything. Then they read it and they go, oh, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that.
The only way you can do it is if you have disciples and they're really willing to, that's why it's important to have, you know, a living guru who knows what Prabhupada said, because the only way you're going to get people to follow is if they listen to their guru and their guru knows what Prabhupada wanted. And that's how ISKCON's going to carry on, because if, you know, if people don't have a guru who tells them what Prabhupada wanted, how's it going to go on? It's all going to change. Yeah, but Prabhupada didn't say everything in the books. I mean, there's so many conversations, there's so many letters, there's so many, you know, whatever else, letters, so many letters.
On a lighter side, so you can walk up to a devotee and tell him, hey, Prabhu, read this chapter for
Right, that's right.
But like I said, it's not all in the books. It's, you know, a lot of it's in letters and conversations and. Yeah, but I mean, he said them.
All right. So would Sankalpa like to read next? Or did you already read? I'm not sure.
I think I read. Yeah, I did.
Okay, sorry. Then you go. Here.
Which one?
They don't even see me on here.
Jai Govinda didn't read, right? Did you read?
At this point,
Samapriya Mataji is there.
caught the Gaudiya Vaishnava by the neck and giving him a little push, ejected him from the Gundicha Puri temple and made him stay outside. After Sri Damodar Goswami returned to the temple, he requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to excuse that innocent person. After this incident, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. He then asked all of the devotees to sit down in 2 lines on both sides. The Lord then personally sat down in the middle and picked up all kinds of straw, grains of sand, and dirty things.
Okay, go on. Next.
While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was picking up the straws and grains of sand, he said, I shall gather everyone's collection, and I shall ask whoever has collected less than all the others to pay a fine of sweet cakes and sweet rice. In this way, all the quarters of the Gundicha temple were completely cleansed and cleared. All quarters were cool and spotless, like one's cleansed and pacified mind. When the water from the different rooms was finally let out through the halls, it appeared as if new rivers were rushing out to meet the waters of the ocean.
Okay. Jai Govinda Prabhu, are you still there? Can you read the next one? Jai Govinda Prabhu is not.
Samapriya Mataji is there, Mataji.
Yeah. Shamapriya Mataji, would you like to do the next?
Okay. When the water from the different rooms was finally let out, is that one?
Next one. Next one.
And then the big purport. Okay, I'll read some of it.
Okay.
Outside the gateway of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done. Purport. In commenting on the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally giving instructions on how one should receive Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, within one's cleansed and pacified heart. If one wants to see Krishna seated in his heart, he must first cleanse the heart, as prescribed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Shikshastika, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. In this age, everyone's heart is unclean, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Hriday Antosto Kri Abhadrani. To wash all dirty things accumulated within the heart, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. The first result will be that the heart is cleansed, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.17 also confirms this statement. Shrimvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravanam Kirtanam Hridanti Sto Hi Abhadrani vidunoti surit satam. Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma Super Soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Next. Someone else can read now.
If a devotee, now I've lost it. If a devotee at all wants to cleanse his heart, he must chant and hear the glories of the Lord, Sri Krishna, Shrimvatam Swakata Krishna. This is a simple process. Krishna himself will help but cleanse the heart because he is already seated there. Krishna wants to continue living within the heart, and the Lord wants to give directions, but one has to keep his heart as clean as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept the Gundicha temple. The devotee therefore has to cleanse his heart just as the Lord cleansed the Gundicha temple. In this way, one can be pacified and enriched in devotional service. If the heart is filled with straw, grains of sand, weeds, or dust, in other words, anyabilasa punya, one cannot enthrone the Supreme Personality of Godhead there. The heart must be cleansed of all material motives brought about through fruitive work, speculative knowledge, the mystic yoga system, and so many other forms of so-called meditation. The heart must be cleansed without ulterior motive. There you go.
As Srila Rupa Goswami says, Anya vilasita sunyam jnana karmadi anvritam. In other words, there should not be any external motive. One should not attempt material upliftment, understanding the Supreme by speculative knowledge, fruitive activities, severe austerity and penance, and so on. All these activities are against the natural growth of spontaneous love of Godhead. As soon as these are present within the heart should be understood to be unclean and therefore unfit to serve as Krishna's sitting place. We cannot perceive the Lord's presence in our hearts unless our hearts are cleansed. A material desire is explained as a desire to enjoy the material world to its fullest extent. In modern language, this is called economic development. An inordinate desire for economic development is considered to be like straws and grains of sand within the heart. If one is overly engaged in material activity, the heart will always remain disturbed. As stated by Narottam Das Thakur, samsara vishanale diva nisha hiya jvale udru daiti na kainu upaya. In other words, endeavor for material opulence is against the principle of devotional service. Material enjoyment includes activities such as great sacrifices for auspicious activity, charity, austerity, elevation to higher planetary systems, and even living happily within the material world. Modernized material benefits are like the dust of material contamination. When this dust is agitated by the whirlwind of fruitive activity, it overcomes the heart. Thus, the mirror of the heart is covered with dust. There are many desires to perform auspicious and inauspicious activities, but the people do not know how life after life they are keeping their hearts unclean. One who cannot give up the desire for fruitive activity is understood to be covered by the dust of material contamination. Karmis generally think that the interaction of fruitive activities can be counteracted by another karma or fruitive activity. This is certainly a mistaken conception. If one is deluded by such a conception, he is cheated by his own activity.
Yeah.
Do you want someone else to read?
I have a question, Mataji. It says, why does it say severe austerity is not recommended? And how do you determine which one is a severe austerity? Like, who decides that? How do you determine that?
Srila Prabhupada, as far as I understand, he would say, like the yogis who surround themselves by fire during the summertime out in the full sun, you know, doing austerities like that that are in the mode of ignorance and passion. But we perform austerities for advancement in spiritual life by following the order of the spiritual master, like rising early in the morning, chanting our 16 rounds, following the 4 regulative principles, fasting on fasting days, Ekadasi, Vrata, twice a month. So these are austerities that help us make advancement, and they're offered to Krishna. But these other austerities that people make up to do all kinds of, like, what is that? Putting yourself in freezing cold water up to the neck, into freezing cold. Those are austerities that are just in the mode of ignorance, and they don't bring us to a spiritual place. They just make one hard-hearted. They make the heart very hard.
Sometimes, we see devotees sometimes, and they may try to, give up eating. They'll just eat very, very little bit, or eat once a day or something. But it doesn't really get rid of material desires. And sometimes we see that devotees who try to be too austere, they end up giving up Krishna consciousness because, they're artificially trying to renounce enjoyment, but they're not really experiencing spiritual happiness. So they have to get some happiness, so they give it all up. And we've seen that sometimes very austere devotees, they try to be too austere. And they become hard-hearted and unfriendly.
Okay. So the question now is, it's already past 7 o'clock. What do you want to do now? Can we stop at this point, because everyone had a turn to read?
Yeah, whatever you want.
Or should we continue with the purport?
Yeah, finish the purport.
I would say finish. Oh, it's 2 more pages.
Yeah, why don't you read?
Yeah.
Just finish that purport.
Somebody else can read.
You can finish that para and then I will continue, Mataji.
Okay. If one is deluded by such a conception, he is cheated by his own activity. Such activities have been compared to an elephant's bathing. An elephant may bathe very thoroughly, but as soon as it comes out of the river, it immediately takes some sand from the land and throws it all over its body. If one suffers due to his past fruitive activities, he cannot counteract his suffering by performing auspicious activities. The sufferings of human society cannot be counteracted by material plans. The only way these sufferings can be mitigated is by Krishna consciousness. When one takes to Krishna consciousness and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, beginning with chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord, the cleansing of the heart begins. When the heart is actually cleansed, one can clearly see the Lord sitting there without any disturbance. In Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.68, the Lord confirms that he sits within the heart of the pure devotee. Sadavo hridayam mayam, sadhunam hridayam tvaham.
Impersonal speculation, monism merging into the existence of supreme, speculative knowledge, mystic yoga, and meditation are all compared to grains of sand. They simply cause irritation to the heart. No one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by such activities, nor do we give the Lord a chance to sit in our hearts peacefully. Rather, the Lord is simply disturbed by them. Sometimes yogis and jnanis in the beginning take to the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra as a way to begin their various practices. But when they falsely think that they have attained release from the bondage of material existence, they give up chanting. They do not consider that the ultimate goal is the form of the Lord or the name of the Lord. Such unfortunate creatures are never favored by Supreme Personality of Godhead, for they do not know what devotional service is.
Question.
Yes.
I have one more question. It says the in Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.68, the Lord confirms that he sits within the heart of the pure devotee. I thought Paramatma realization was for everyone.
Maybe somebody else would like to answer for a change.
No, it's supposed to be one of those.
Okay, well, there's a verse in the Brahma Samhita which says Premanjana Charita Bhakti Balochanana Shantaksadaiva Hridayesh Bilokayanti Yam Sama Sundaram Achintaganu Swarupam Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So, when one's eyes, according to the verse, are smeared with the salve of love, then you actually see Shama Sundar in your heart. You don't see the super soul. For most, yogas, they might be trying to perceive the super soul in the heart, but for a devotee who heart is purified, they actually see Shama Sundar. They don't see they don't want to see the super soul. I mean, the super soul is not the same as seeing Shama Sundar. We're not trying to be Paramatma realized. It says, Vedanti tat tatva vedas tatvamyantikanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavanti sabdyate. That's the famous verse. The learned transcendentalists who know the nature of the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So, it's the second step, but it's nowhere near the third step.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Can I just say something in relation to that?
Yes, Mata. Yes.
The Lord reveals himself to a devotee the way he has been worshipped throughout that devotee's life. So someone who is meditating on Ram, then the Lord will reveal himself like that, or even Varaha. And the Lord has an infinite amount of forms and names, and the form and name that a devotee is cultivating throughout his life, a relationship with, that I believe, I firmly understand that the Lord will reveal himself in that way. What do you think, Adikarta?
Well, yeah, that's true, but we're not really so interested in seeing other forms of the Lord. We're more interested in seeing the original two-armed form of the Lord, which is what Krishna told us to see as the highest form. And, all the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami are all about seeing the original two-armed form of Govinda, Shamasunda. So, that's what we should be aiming for. And sometimes this one devotee, Prabodhananda Saraswati, he wrote a book called Chaitanya Chandramrita, which I lost. I don't know where it went, but that was a great book. But he almost derides. We can't do that, but he almost derides the other form of the Lord. He has no interest whatsoever in living anywhere else except for Vrindavan. He doesn't want to worship anyone else at all. He's totally against it. But, we see with Lord Chaitanya, with Murari Gupta, he was incarnation of Hanuman, I believe, and he was attached to worshiping Lord Ram, so he didn't try to sway his mind. So if you're attached to a particular form of the Lord, that's fine. But that's not really the essential message that Lord Chaitanya taught.
Okay. So I'm going to continue reading them. But when they falsely think that they have attained release from the bondage of material existence, they give up chanting. They do not consider the ultimate goal is the form of Lord or the name of the Lord. Such unfortunate creatures are never favored by Supreme Personality of Godhead, for they do not know what devotional service is. Lord Krishna describes them in Bhagavad Gita in this way. Tanaham dvishta kruran samsareshu naradhaman kshipami ajasram ashubhan asurishu eva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Jai Govinda Prabhu, I see that you are back again here. Would you like to read next from here? Are you here? Jai Govinda Prabhu. Okay. By his practical example, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown us that all the grains of sand must be picked up thoroughly and thrown outside. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the outside of the temple, fearing that the grains of sand would again come within. In this connection, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that even though one may become free from the desire for fruitive activity, sometimes the subtle desire for fruitive activity again comes into being within the heart. One often thinks of conducting business to improve devotional activity, but the contamination is so strong that it may later develop into misunderstanding, described as kutinati, fault finding, and pratishtasha, the desire for name and fame and for high position, jiva himsa, envy of other living entities, nishiddhachara, accepting things forbidden in the Shastra, kama, desire for material gain, puja, hankering for popularity. The word kutinati means duplicity. As an example for pratishtasha, one may attempt to imitate Srila Haridas Thakur by living in solitary place. One's real desire may be for name and fame. In other words, one thinks that fools will accept one to be as good as Haridas Thakur just because one lives in a solitary place. These are all material desires. A neophyte devotee is certain to be attacked by other material desires as well, namely desires for women and money. In this way, the heart is again filled with dirty things and becomes harder and harder, like that of a materialist. Gradually, one desires to become a reputed devotee or an avatara. The word Jiva Himsa, envy of other living entities, actually means stopping the preaching of Krishna consciousness. Oof, that's heavy. Preaching work is described as paro upakara, welfare activity for others. Those who are ignorant of the benefits of devotional service must be educated by preaching. If one stops preaching and simply sits down in a solitary place, he is engaging in material activity. If one desires to make a compromise with the Mayavadis, he is also engaged in material activity. A devotee should never make compromises with non-devotees. By acting as a professional guru, mystic yogi, or miracle man, one may cheat and bluff the general public and gain fame as a wonderful mystic. But all this is considered to be dust, straw, and grains of sand within the heart. In addition, one should follow the regulative principles and not desire illicit sex, gambling, intoxicants, or meat. To give us practical instructions, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleansed the temple twice. His second cleansing was more thorough. The idea was to throw away all the stumbling blocks on the path of devotional service. He cleansed the temple with firm conviction, as is evident from his using his own personal garments for cleaning. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to see personally that the temple was thoroughly cleansed to the standard of clean marble. Clean marble gives a cooling effect. Devotional service means attaining peace from all disturbances caused by material contamination. In other words, it is the process by which the mind is cooled. The mind can be peaceful and thoroughly cleansed when one no longer desires anything but devotional service. Even though all dirty things may be cleansed away, sometimes subtle desires remain in the mind of in the mind for impersonalism, monism, success, and the four principles of religious activity: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. All these are spots on clean cloth. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted to cleanse all these away. Mataji Prabhu, do you have any comments to make up until here, or can I continue to read?
It takes a long time.
Okay, so I'll read more. By his practical activity, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed us how to cleanse our hearts. Once the heart is cleansed, we should invite Lord Sri Krishna to sit down, and we should observe the festival by distributing prasadam and chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to teach every devotee by his personal behavior. Everyone who spreads the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts a similar responsibility. The Lord was personally chastising and praising individuals in the course of the cleaning, and those who are engaged as acharyas must learn from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu how to train devotees by personal example. The Lord was very pleased with those who could cleanse the temple by taking out undesirable things accumulated within. This is called anartha nivriti, cleansing the heart of all unwanted things. Thus, the cleansing of Gundicha Mandira was conducted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to let us know how the heart should be cleansed and soothed to receive Lord Sri Krishna and enable him to sit within the heart without disturbance.
Hari.
Hari Bol.
Thank
Some-
you.
Some closing thoughts, Prabhu?
Closing thoughts. Well, you have to be patient because, cleansing the heart is one thing, but, that's just the beginning. Like the Shikshastakam talks about, the first verse is all about, Chetodharpanamarjan, cleaning the heart. But, that's just the first verse. And then later on, we get Nayanam Galadushu Gadaya, when will my tears flow from my eyes like torrents of rain? When will my hairs, stand up on my body? So, we do have quite a ways to go, but the point is that, as soon as you start, your heart begins to start getting cleansed, but you have to be very patient because it does take time. And a lot of devotees, they get impatient and they give up and they lose faith in the chanting because they think it takes too long. So this is a big problem, that one should never give up, even though, we may not have a lot of taste for chanting, but this is the lesson that Lord Chaitanya taught. He said he didn't have any taste. So we have to be very patient and we have to persevere. But the process is infallible. If you follow it properly, you're gonna ultimately get success.
When does that happen, the taste for chanting? Is that like,
It depends who you are. Some people, what's that?
they're going to take multiple birds to take taste?
Not necessarily, but some people are naturally more advanced than others. There's quite a big difference between some devotees when they join and I know some devotees who joined around the same time as I did, and they, they're very advanced. They have a real taste for chanting, and they're just on a different level. So joining at the same time as somebody else doesn't necessarily signify that you're on the same level of advancement. Somebody may have practiced previously much more and been on a much higher level when he became a devotee. So, we just have to carry on. We're all individuals and we have to accept, kind of shortcomings, which is, I find that kind of difficult, that, it takes time and we're all very flawed, or I'm very flawed. And I see some devotees who are very advanced, and I try to learn from them. And some devotees, they give up after a few years or a few months, they give up. So, I'm still there. Everyone's different. That's the point. We're all in a different situation. But the bottom line is that we get all the acharyas, Narottam Das Thakur, Lord Chaitanya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they all said they have no taste for chanting. But at the end of their songs, if you read the progression, at the end of their songs, they're saying, that now they're actually in Vrindavan, they're serving Radharani in the Manjari body. So they say. So they're teaching us, they're encouraging us that, they had no taste. We may not have any taste, but it's going to come. You just have to stick with it.
Actually, Rupa Goswami says that in the Nectar of Instruction about how we're in a jaundiced state because we're covered by so much dirt. I know I say this all the time. But simply by concentrating and chanting on the holy names of the Lord, the heart is clean. Just like jaundice, sugar tastes not sweet, it tastes bitter. So similarly, it said, Rupa Goswami says that the holy name, because we're covered by the jaundice of ignorance, the holy name doesn't taste sweet, it tastes bitter. But if we keep chanting regularly with concentration, then it'll begin to taste sweet. Our ignorance will be destroyed. And just like someone with jaundice, if they keep taking that sugar candy, it'll start tasting sweet and their jaundice will be cured. So he describes it's just the same with us in chanting. So we just have to have faith in this holy name that if we just keep carefully chanting every day, we'll be cleansed.
So that's why the kirtan is so important, because, kirtan is easier than japa for a lot of people. So basically, Bhaktisiddhanta, he said, one who attends the kirtan of the Lord, he will be successful. So a lot of times, devotees don't go to the kirtan much. They say, I'm not a kirtaniya. They're not a good singer, whatever. But the point is that the kirtan is very, very important. So I could say, like Samapriya Prabhu, she doesn't sing much. I've never seen her lead a kirtan, but she always goes, a couple of times a week, and she enjoys the kirtan. So this is very important. Even if we don't lead a kirtan, we should still go, because there's more potency in the kirtan. But it is kind of important to have good singers who are, like devotional as well. Not just good singers, but people who are devotional, because basically we're not on the level where we can appreciate people who aren't really good singers. It makes it hard to stay in the kirtan. So, Prabhupada wanted to train people to be good musicians. He wanted to have a group of devotees traveling around doing kirtan. So it's good, to learn how to play some musical instruments and sing nicely. That will attract people more than, if we sing out of tune. So you say it.
Actually,
One last question.
No, wait. When you talk about kirtan, what we are doing now, kirtan means glorification. And
Yeah, this is
what we are
kirtan.
doing now is also kirtan. So,
This is kirtan too.
yes.
But the Maha Mantra has special potency, because you have to use your tongue. So, the kirtan, Lord Chaitanya, he showed by example that he would have kirtan with his intimate followers, and they wouldn't always let everybody come in. But,
What is the one symptom you would see if a devotee has developed taste in chanting?
one symptom,
That stands out for you in your experience.
well, they'll chant more japa, they'll always be chanting. But Prabhupada said also that book distribution is the same as kirtan. So I find it easier to do books than to sit and chant Hare Krishna all day. I can't do that. But I can go out and I can distribute books all day. So Prabhupada said there's no difference. So, I always chant my 16 rounds. Sometimes I chant more. But you know, everybody's different. I find that going on book distribution, which is going out preaching, is easier for me than just sitting around and chanting japa all day. But we have to chant the japa. This Prabhupada said was the most important instruction of the spiritual master.
Okay.
I just wish we had more of you guys. I wish we had more of Dhruva Maharaj Das and Samapriya Mataji. I wish we had more days of discussing.
And you,
these.
and you
And
mean,
yeah, and the two of you.
You can always, yeah, we're happy to discuss. But we'll be gone soon, you know.
I wasn't.
You better get with the program.
I
We've only got a few years left.
something to keep doing every day.
I don't mind. Yeah. Yeah, I'm always happy to do this. It's great to, you know, be with the devotees. Thank you very much for asking us to do it. I enjoyed it.
Yes.
thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
All the devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhu.
Hare Krishna. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Gauratai ki jai.
Jai.
Go Premanandi.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
We'll see you all tomorrow, the same time, same place. Thank you. Haribol.